Okay, I am going to try this beautiful flourish using my C plate, some wax paper, my lightweight cardstock. It's only green, it's the only difference, same cardstock as the white. And I'm going to run this through and see what we get. That seemed to have worked perfectly. Transfer this to the B plate in order to emboss it. This, I have the wax paper in there. And so now, C plate, B plate, my die with the paper and wax paper in there. And my B plate on top to emboss. Let's see what we get. Isn't it fun to discover what you're gonna come up with? That's pretty, but you know what I got is some slippage. The wax paper made the paper slip around, and if you can see there. So this may not have needed wax paper because the cardstock is lightweight. For one thing, the cardstock is lightweight, and I'm going to try it again without the wax paper. Okay, so I'm going to give that a shot again without wax paper. So I'm going with this A plate. Always the A plate. C plate, die ridge side up. My lightweight cardstock. Make sure it's covering the die. And my B plate on top. It's a pretty flourish, so I definitely want to see what this is going to look like cut and embossed. I don't think there's a problem cutting this one. Good. So now transfer it to the B plate. The embossing mat and the other B plate. This paper is creating quite a bit of dust. You like sawdust? It's paper dust. Excuse me. So I'm going to get this one out. Now, sorry, I'm getting froggy in my throat. That made a very pretty, nice flourish. So I didn't use the wax paper this time because it caused shifting before. And I got a nice cut and emboss. That's very pretty. So my lighter weight cardstock, that made a nice cut. Okay, I'm going to pause for a moment. Okay, I took a little break. The dust from the paper was really getting to me. Sorry. I'm going to try to get through 2 more die cuts. And what I'm doing is I'm using the largest dies that I have. I have 2 of the Anna Griffin 5x7. That's the size of these. They're very intricate. I'm going to try using my C plate with wax paper on this one. I'm going to give it a shot. And I'm using the lighter weight cardstock. So I have my C plate, my die, my wax paper, and the cardstock. Now I hope I have, yeah, the cardstock is barely covering that. And the B plate on top. Okay, I'm going to stand up to try to make sure I don't shift this around. So this is using my wax paper on this large die. The large intricate dies really take some elbow grease to put through to get all those fine cuts. So it's taking a little bit of effort here. And this is not very heavy cardstock, but as you can see, I got a pretty decent cut. It looks like I might have some problem in part of this. I'm going to shift it off to my B plate so I can emboss it. Then we'll see what we got here. And I hope the wax paper doesn't cause this to shift any. Because this is a beautiful die cut here if it comes out. So I have my A plate, my B plate now to emboss it. Have the wax paper, the cardstock, my embossing pad, and my B plate. Let's run that through, see what we get. It's a little easier embossing it than it was cutting it. And I think maybe we have a beautiful cut here. I hope so. Let me get all the pieces out with my tool-in-one. Ah, yes. That came out perfectly. Now this is using a lighter weight cardstock. I am going to try another one with the heavier cardstock. This is the cut. Came out pretty good. Like I said, lighter cardstock. It cut and embossed perfectly. Make sure you're getting a full view. Hopefully you can see the emboss as well. Very pretty. Very pretty. So that came out fine. I used wax paper and it came out without a problem. Very pretty cut. That will make a beautiful background on a card. Beautiful. Okay, so here we go again. A plate, C plate. This is the die I'm trying now. This is the one with the flowers will emboss in there. That will be pretty. C plate, wax paper. Since I don't care about the wax paper, I'm going to shove it through to cover that. Put my cardstock on. And my B plate on top. Got to stand up to do this one. The elbow grease has to kick in here. So that's using the C plate and the wax paper. I hope the wax paper don't cause that to shift too much. As you can see, it's pretty tough. I need to get some workout in. Oh man, the wax paper actually made that whole sheet lift out. So I'm going to take the wax paper off now, the main part, and I'm going to lay this back in there. I think I had that happen without wax paper actually on this one. Another time I did have it because I remember placing these back. So I'm going to place it back in there in my die. Go ahead and change to my B plate for embossing. So it's going to be my A plate. We went ahead and took the wax paper off. And as you can see, it's settled back in the die pretty good. I'm going to use my embossing pad. Whoa. I remember this is an issue with this die. There's a couple of the dies I've had this problem with where the paper lifts out. I think the more solid pieces you have in the die, the easier it is for the die to lift off. I mean the paper to lift off. So let me get this in here. See if I can hold it still to get the embossing pad on. There we go. See, I took the wax paper totally out. I'm going to put my B plate on, hold that in place, and emboss. So this shouldn't be a problem coming out. Let's see what we have. This is the heavier cardstock, remember. It's the heavier cardstock. And you see how that lifted out so easy. But the problem is I hope all those pieces come out. And so far they are falling right out. So this one I would probably recommend not to use the wax paper. Let me get my little poker thing here. Okay, I have a few little pieces, and I did get some shifting because there were some pieces of wax paper left. But everything's coming out. So what I would do is not use wax paper on this die. Because of all those solid pieces on the die, it's going to lift out without a problem. But everything cut out fine. So I'm going to double back on this one just to... Okay, as I showed you, I ran that through with wax paper the first time. I found that cardstock again, and I'm going to run it through without wax paper this time, using my C plate. And the reason I'm using the C plate, I've done it their way using the mat on the bottom under a B plate, and I did not get a good result. That's why I'm sticking with the C plate. So I'm not going to use wax paper. I'm going to put my cardstock, it's my A plate, my C plate, the die, my cardstock, and the B plate on top. Got to get this in there just right to get all the, make sure everything's covered. Okay, everything's covered. That's my C plate. Oh shoot, it shifted again. Okay, let's try this again. There we go. Everything's covered. My B plate. I'm going to hold it tight and run it through. This one takes a little muscle. Okay. See how that lifted right out of there? So I have that's happened on several of occasions because I've done this several times. But I'm going to emboss it. It looks like my cut is good. I'm going to put the die back on. And this is the problem, is getting this matched up again. I'm going to try to get some of this framework around the outside taken out. That's part of the problem with this one, is it's really a toughie to get through. It comes so easily out of the paper. And I think that's part of the shifting that goes on as well. It's coming out of the paper, so it's hard to get this right back in the exact right place. But let's give it a shot. My B plate, my embossing pad, okay, everything's in order. If it will stay, hopefully it doesn't shift. Okay, the embossing now. Trying to tidy up as I go here because I can't stand it when it's too messy. Okay, let's see what happens. Oh, see, this time I got some pieces. This is the one die of Anna's that I've had the most trouble with of all. I am not getting good cuts, but the problem is that shifting is going to happen because it lifts out of the die so easily. And so when you go to emboss it, it's going to shift. That's the trouble I've had with this die, and I've done this numerous times. So that's why I was trying different things. I think I'm going to try it again with my lighter weight paper to see if that helps. But as you can see, these are stuck. And this is my heavier weight paper. In some areas, it's just not going to come loose. Like here, I could cut that loose, but that, and then you've got shifting going on here. So on my heavyweight cardstock, this does not cut well. I've tried that numerous times. Now I'm going to try it using my lighter weight paper. I'm going to go ahead and do it their way and do it my way and see what happens. So I'm going to use, of course, my A plate, the matte, the B, the die. You want to make sure the mat is underneath the whole die. I need to trim this one a little bit. So I have my C plate, my mat, my B plate. Make sure the die is over all of the mat. This is my lighter weight cardstock. Cover the die completely. And my other B plate. Let's run that through and see what we get. Okay, so what I'm going to do this time is try to hold that in there. And just get that mat on top. This time the paper did not come out of the die. I'm going to emboss. Okay, let's see what we get. Sorry. See, that lifts out of that die, and I tell you that embossing made it shift again, but this is better. This is better. So on this particular die, you almost have to pick those pieces out one by one, and still there's places where it's stuck a little bit. This has been the hardest one of all the dies, but I like it so much. I can see so much potential cutting this on white paper and coloring those flowers. I'm going to literally cut it out of this area here. See, I literally had to cut that out. Then I have little pieces that are stuck in the leaves. Those are coming out okay. So this one is a little more troublesome, but if you love this die like I do, I love the die itself. And if you use a little care, you can get everything out. Okay. Okay, let's get rid of all the bad memories. So I did finally get a cut that's usable. This is using my lighter weight cardstock. And as you can see there, it embosses pretty good. But you see the trouble I had getting all those little pieces. I see another little piece. This one here, that is out. And another one here. Okay. There we go. So that's usable. I would definitely do that. I'm going to do it on white just to see. But yes, you can do that. But this one's a little more troublesome. So I'm going to be back with a white one. I have another. I still want to try this one. using their method because I like this dye so much. So I tried it their way. Now I'm going to try it my way. A plate, C plate, dye, paper, and B plate. So I'm using a C plate and one B plate this time. I'm not even sure what that noise is. Oh, I know what it is. I have some flowers up there in glass bottles. I think I'm going to run that back through if I can before I take it out. Oh, going the wrong way. Okay, I ran it through twice before I took it out. I'm going to turn it and try embossing it. Now this is with lighter cardstock. And I'm still having a little bit of a problem. Oh geez. B plate. Always got to have that B plate in there. What a problem child. This one is really giving me a go for it. Okay, there we go. Okay, with the emboss, let's see if we get it. Yes. Finally, I think we've got it. Okay. Yes, finally. Okay, this is using the C plate. Let me clean up and I'll show you my cut. Okay, so if you remember, using the same cardstock, I tried that using their method and it would not cut all the pieces, and I sent it through several times. I did, however, do it again using the C plate and one B plate. I ran it through twice. I still have a little bit here. Those are coming out. And here's a couple pieces. There's a few you have to still kind of work with. Okay. But I did finally get a nice cut. So there we go. I like this. And it's worth the tears. I feel like crying when they don't come out. But it's worth it. That will be so pretty on a card as the background. I would color those flowers in and maybe make all this flourish and the leaves and stuff green. Make the buds and the flowers a pretty color. And I just think that would be gorgeous. That's why I wanted to try it in white, because I would color those. So let's see what we get. I'm going to try to work with that one and I'll come back and show you. But with that one, with this die, I don't know the name of this die. I didn't take the names off before I got rid of the cover. But these are the dies I bought from HSN. I bought these separately. And, but with this die, I had to use the C plate. The C plate, the die. The C plate, the A plate, sorry, the C plate, the die. The B plate, after I've put my paper down. Paper, B plate. I ran it through twice, and then you shift it to a B plate. Take the C plate away, shift it to a B plate, put your embossing pad over your paper with another B plate on top and emboss it. That's how I finally got this cut, using the C plate and the B plate, and then embossing it with 2 B plates. Okay, that one came out finally. And the other thing is, I use a lighter weight cardstock. I don't think I ever got a good cut using a heavyweight cardstock on that one. So guys, I'm going to come back with a video showing my embossing folders that actually have the dies that go with them. So I'll be right back.